Everything seems like it's falling apart. Your plans get delayed. Your emotions get heavier. People you've outgrown suddenly show up again, pulling you back into stories you swore you'd healed. You start questioning everything. And just when you think you're breaking, you're actually on the edge of a breakthrough. Have you felt it? That strange tension right before something changes? The inner chaos before clarity? The urge to give up just before the shift arrives? That's not a coincidence. That's the test. The universe doesn't test you to punish you. It tests you to prepare you, to check your vibration, to ask, are you still available for the old version of yourself? Or are you ready to become what you said you wanted to be? Because every new reality requires a new identity, and the test is the portal. Can you hold your energy when nothing around you validates the vision? Can you stay loyal to the future you've chosen, even when the past comes knocking louder than ever? In this video, we're going deep into the sacred mechanics behind the test, why it happens, what it really means, and how to move through it without collapsing your field. Because when you stop reacting to the test, you finally prove you're ready for the shift. Comment below. I trust the test. I'm ready for what's next. Let's anchor this moment together. Why life feels hardest before it changes. There's a sacred irony the universe seems to love. Right before everything falls into place, it first falls apart. You feel it. The tightening, the tension, the silence after the prayer. You've done the work, set the intention, held the vision. And just when you're ready to step into the new, it's as if the ground beneath you starts shifting. People pull away, plans dissolve, opportunities stall, and deep inside your body whispers, why now? Why is this happening right before the breakthrough? But this isn't the breakdown, this is the test. When you're on the edge of a major shift, the universe doesn't just hand it over. It calibrates your field. It checks if your energy is truly aligned with what you've asked for, not just in thought, but in embodiment. Because every new reality demands a version of you who no longer carries the energetic signatures of the old. And how does the universe reveal what you're still holding? It turns up the volume on your past. It triggers the wound you thought you'd already healed. It delays the vision just long enough to ask, are you loyal to what's coming? Or are you still emotionally tied to what's leaving? This is where most people misread the process. They take the delay as denial. They interpret the tension as rejection. They assume they've failed, when in fact, they're closer than ever. Because the test isn't a punishment. It's a portal. It's designed to show you where your vibration still wavers, where you still need external validation, where your faith is conditional. The question isn't, why is this happening? It's, can I hold my alignment when nothing around me validates the shift I feel inside? And that's the most powerful moment of the journey. The moment when everything looks the same, but you don't react the same. When the old pattern reappears, and you don't choose it. When the fear rises, and you don't feed it. You become the embodiment of the new frequency before it arrives. And that's when reality has no choice but to rearrange. So if it feels like things are unraveling right before the manifestation, if your path is suddenly filled with doubt, emotion, confusion, know this, you're not being punished, you're being initiated. The universe is asking you to pass through the threshold, to leave behind the final remnants of your old timeline, to demonstrate, not through words, but through presence, that you're no longer available for anything less than what your soul called in. The test is sacred, the pressure is alchemical, and if you're walking through it right now, take a breath. You are not collapsing, you are being reshaped. You are standing at the edge of the shift, and this discomfort, it's proof that the new reality is already forming, and it's waiting for you to fully step in. Most people misunderstand the nature of divine timing. When things go wrong, they assume they're being punished. When life delays a dream, they start believing they're unworthy. But the universe is not a force of revenge. It's a force of refinement. Before every quantum leap, there is a checkpoint. Not to stop you, but to stabilize you. to reveal where your frequency still slips, to bring light to the hidden patterns that would sabotage what you've prayed to receive. So the universe doesn't ask you to be perfect, it asks you to be clear. And clarity only comes through contrasts. You say you're ready for love, but the test will bring back the person who broke you. You say you're done with lack, but the test will present you with a familiar scarcity. You say you want to be seen, but the test will trigger the part of you that still hides. Why? Because the universe wants to know if your declaration is anchored in your body or just floating in your mind. It wants to know, can you stay aligned when the mirror shows you the opposite of what you asked for? These tests are often disguised as disappointment. They show up as closed doors, old wounds, missed calls. They stir emotions you thought you outgrew: insecurity, fear, guilt, shame. But the test is not about the external moment. It's about your internal response. Do you collapse or stay centered? Do you react or recalibrate? Do you chase or choose to remain magnetic? The universe doesn't test you to trap you. It tests you to free you from what you still unconsciously believe you need. And it does this by offering you a reflection, a version of the old pattern dressed in just enough familiarity to tempt your nervous system back into survival. But if you see it clearly, if you recognize the disguise, you get to say, "Thank you, but I no longer operate from this identity." The test becomes an opportunity, not to prove your worth, but to express your energetic truth. And that expression becomes a signal, a message to the field. I am ready, not because I said so, but because I showed it. Because I felt the old frequency, and I didn't act from it. Because I held the line, even when it trembled. And when that happens, when the universe sees you hold your center, that's when the breakthrough unlocks. That's when alignment accelerates. That's when everything begins to shift around you, because you finally held it within you. So if life is testing you now, don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What is this trying to show me about who I used to be and who I'm becoming?" Because the test is never random. It's a sacred echo of your old vibration, asking if you still want to stay there, or if you're finally ready to rise. How your old timeline pulls you back. Right before the new timeline anchors, the old one makes its final move. Not as a loud enemy, but as a familiar comfort. It whispers to your nervous system, offering predictability, safety, and the illusion of control. It reminds you of who you used to be, not because you still are that version, but because part of you is still healing the need to be. This is the magnetic pull of your past, not always toxic, not always painful, but deeply embedded in your identity. It's the version of you that survived, that adapted, that learned to call chaos home. And now that you're growing beyond it, it feels like betrayal. Why? Because your nervous system associates the old life with belonging. It knows how to be anxious. It knows how to chase. It knows how to settle for crumbs, how to keep quiet, how to please, perform, prove. But joy, peace, expansion, that's unfamiliar. And unfamiliar doesn't always feel safe, even when it's what you truly want. So as you step closer to alignment, the old timeline activates. It sends you tests that look like second chances. It floods your mind with doubts that sound like truth. It tempts you with versions of love that once felt real, even if they were built on self-abandonment. Have you noticed how the past seems to call when your energy begins to rise? That's not a coincidence. It's a vibrational echo. Your field is shifting, and what no longer resonates is surfacing to be released or rechosen. This is the crossroads, and the choice is subtle. It doesn't always come with clarity or fireworks. Sometimes it's a moment of silence where you feel the pull and choose not to answer. But choosing the new timeline isn't just about rejecting the past. It's about grieving it, honoring the parts of you that found comfort in dysfunction, thanking the survival mechanisms that kept you alive, even if they kept you small. Because what pulls you back isn't weakness, it's loyalty to an identity that's dissolving, to people who shaped you, to pain that became familiar. And the only way forward is through conscious detachment. You don't need to fight the past. You only need to stop feeding it. Stop responding out of fear. Stop justifying what no longer aligns. Stop editing yourself to fit into spaces your soul has outgrown. And when you do, when you hold your new frequency even in the face of old temptation, you collapse the energetic bond. You close the loop. You anchor the new. Because the past doesn't leave until you stop looking back. And the future can't begin until you're brave enough to release who you used to be. There comes a moment in every transformation where nothing outside you confirms the shift. No signs, no certainty, no validation, just an inner knowing and 1,000 reasons to doubt it. This is the threshold, where timelines split not through action, but through identity, where the question is no longer, what do I want, but who am I willing to become, and what must die for that to happen? Because real change doesn't begin when you receive something. It begins when you stop being available for what no longer matches who you're choosing to be. The universe will never hand you a new reality if you're still behaving like the version of you who created the old one. So the test arrives. Do you stay where it's familiar, or step into the unknown? Do you repeat the pattern, or hold your ground? Do you collapse into reaction, or root yourself in embodiment? This moment is sacred. It's not about logic. It's not about what makes sense on paper. It's about resonance. It's about aligning with the version of you who already lives in the vibration you desire, and refusing to betray her, even when your current reality hasn't caught up yet. That version of you doesn't chase. She doesn't beg the past to change. She doesn't explain her worth or shrink to keep the peace. She remembers. That energy doesn't lie. That emotion is data. That peace is proof. And so she moves differently. Not because she's never afraid, but because she trusts what the fear is trying to protect. She thanks it, blesses it, releases it, and keeps walking. Have you felt this moment? When everything in you wants to go back, but a deeper part whispers, you've come too far. That's the choice, the one that rewires your reality, the one the universe watches closely, not to punish you, but to confirm your new coordinates. Because until you choose with energy, not words, until your nervous system acts from the future, not the fear, until your actions reflect your highest truth, not your oldest wound, you'll stay in the loop, the karmic echo, the emotional spin. But the moment you choose from alignment, even if it's messy, even if your voice shakes, even if no one understands, that's when the field responds. That's when the frequency locks in. That's when the new timeline becomes magnetic. And the test? It dissolves. Not because it's over, but because you are no longer the one who needed it. You've heard it said before, energy doesn't lie. But what most people forget is this: emotions are energy. And your emotional body is the first to respond when the universe tests your readiness. Not your words, not your logic, but your felt sense. Your body knows when something is out of alignment. It tightens, contracts, numbs. It feels the friction between your soul's evolution and your nervous system's desire for safety. And this is where the test becomes real. Not in your outer world, but in your inner state. Because the universe isn't just listening to what you say. It's watching what you tolerate. It's observing the subtle ways you abandon yourself to avoid discomfort. How often do you feel an inner no, but say yes anyway? How often do you downplay your intuition just to be accepted? How often do you betray your alignment to avoid triggering someone else? Every one of these moments tells the universe, I'm not ready yet. Not because you don't deserve more, but because your emotional loyalty still leans toward the old self. This is the sacred work, to recognize that your emotional reactions are not weaknesses. They're data. They're invitations into your deeper truth. When grief resurfaces, it's not regression, it's revelation. When anger rises, it's not failure, it's fire. When fear shows up, it's not a stop sign, it's a flashlight. Each emotion, fully felt and honored, dissolves the resistance between who you've been and who you're becoming. But when you suppress those feelings, when you shame yourself for being emotional, when you bypass the pain just to stay high vibe, you block the very healing that would unlock your next level. Your emotional body is ancient. It carries more wisdom than any journal, coach, or affirmation, because it remembers every contract your soul ever made, and it also remembers every time you broke it. That's why, during the test, the body often feels heavier. You may feel tired for no reason. Old memories may rise. You may want to cry or shut down completely. Let it come. Let it speak. Because the test isn't just about staying positive. It's about becoming honest, fully feeling the fear without becoming it, fully holding the grief without drowning in it. It's about expanding your capacity to be present with discomfort, so that discomfort no longer controls your frequency. The more you regulate your emotional body, not by controlling it, but by witnessing it, the more you show the universe, I am safe to hold the next level, because you're no longer running from your truth. And when your emotional body is no longer hijacked by the test, you stop reacting from old wounds and start responding from new embodiment. That's when the energy begins to move. That's when the frequency stabilizes. That's when your nervous system says, I'm ready now. And the test, it releases you, not because it gave you permission, but because you finally gave it to yourself. Just before the leap, the logic collapses, not because you've done something wrong, but because your mind was never meant to carry what your soul came here to do. The deeper the shift, the more the linear mind begins to break down. Suddenly, what once made sense no longer feels aligned. Old plans feel too small. Carefully crafted strategies begin to feel hollow. The steps that once brought clarity now feel like noise. You're not losing your mind. You're releasing your need for control. Because the truth is, quantum shifts don't follow logical steps. They follow energetic laws. And when your energy rises beyond the vibration of your current timeline, logic can't keep up. That's why the test feels disorienting. You've been trained to think your way forward, to analyze, to predict, to plan, to prepare. But now, every attempt to figure it out only creates more resistance, more confusion, more fatigue, because you're trying to map a new dimension with an old blueprint. This is the sacred invitation. Can you surrender your addiction to logic, not to become chaotic, but to become attuned to your body's knowing, to the subtle whispers of your intuition, to the path that unfolds as you walk it, not before. The ego fears this. It wants guarantees. It wants to see the outcome before it says yes to the journey. It wants to skip the void. It wants certainty without surrender. But the soul came here for the mystery. It knows that the deeper truth cannot be explained, only embodied. So the breakdown of logic is not a problem. It's a sign. It means you're no longer living by borrowed maps. It means you're stepping into original frequency, a vibration only your soul knows how to read. In this phase, you may feel unmotivated. You may doubt your path, your vision, your timing. You may be tempted to go back to what's safe, what's familiar, what you can control. But ask yourself, is it truth? Or is it fear dressed as practicality? Because not all confusion is chaos. Some confusion is just your soul shaking off everything that no longer resonates, and the mind trying to catch up. You don't need to fix the confusion. You need to feel through it, to stop forcing clarity, and instead create space for it to land. Clarity is not a thought, it's a frequency. And when you stop clinging to logic, when you allow the mental noise to dissolve into stillness, that clarity rises like mist from the soul. This is the alchemy of transformation. You walk into the unknown, not because you've calculated the path, but because you've become the vibration of the destination. And when your energy matches what you've called in, the bridge appears, the path illuminates, the breakthrough becomes inevitable. Not because your mind figured it out, but because your soul finally led.